As bold as lions. As bold as lions.
As bold as lions.
As bold as lions.
You're listening to the As Bold as Lions podcast.
Welcome to the As Bold as Lions podcast. My name is Derek. I'm your host for the next few minutes. And this is episode 179. We are slowly and steadily moving towards 200 episodes. And hopefully, I think that'll happen in 2025 here. We're not even halfway through the year. So give and take a few weeks, we will hopefully meet that goal. And I have no idea if that's just another episode or what we do with episode 200, but I'll try to kind of keep track as we get closer. So good to have you join me and to dive in once again. We took a break for a couple weeks, but we had done a two-part series on exposure, when God reveals hidden things. And so if that's one that you haven't listened to, those two episodes, I'd encourage you to go back. I think a lot of things that live on the kind of the podcast archives here are fairly evergreen, meaning that from one year to the next, you can kind of keep applying it, and it still works. Especially, a lot of the biblical content that we go through. But the exposure thing, even though that's something that God's, always doing and always kind of working behind the scenes to bring things to light, it definitely seems like it's this year. There's a lot that's just kind of like the dam's just about to break and bust forth, and so much is coming out. So in all of that, we are keeping ourselves ready and just, agreeing that the Lord is looking for a pure bride. He's looking for a bride that is ready for his return, a church that is ready for his return. So I think exposure brought this out, I think, through those episodes, is that exposure is also for us to just keep examining ourselves and allowing the Lord to reveal any hidden things in us so that we can keep moving forward, following him and growing in him. So as we go into our content today, it's kind of an outlier episode that reflects what was put out through the blog for April. And as this posts, we'll be moving towards Easter and have something that will be more centrally featuring Easter and kind of towards that. And then I think we'll go into another kind of brief series on something, still kind of fleshing that out in my head. But eventually I've got kind of a basic roadmap, kind of taking us through May and June. And I'm usually not this far planned out, but I have some ideas and kind of where things are going to go. So Lord willing, we'll keep at it and keep just hopefully encouraging each other through sharing these podcasts and through so much of what people respond in emails and online through like Facebook or Instagram, different places. Lots of cool feedback from just all over the place that I don't even realize that people are listening to this. And so thank you for doing that. When you reach out and say something like, hey, this blog that you wrote spoke to me, or this this podcast I listened to was something I needed to hear. I tried to take all of that and then just bring it back to the Lord and just kind of lay it at his feet and say, God, this is for you. This is all about you. So anything that comes to me that's just giving some thanks or just whatever words that come to me, I bring them to you and offer them back to you. So we are going into the standalone episode, which is, like I said, for the April blog over at DerekCharlesJohnson.com, which you can also hop on the email list if you'd like to get these in your email. You're listening to it, you're kind of getting what I would email out, but probably a little bit more added to it just because I'm speaking and I'm always kind of thinking of extra things to add to the script that's already written. But you can get devotionals as well, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday through that email list, and keeps growing. Keep adding people every week to the email list, and it's cool to see that kind of taking off too. And hopefully those little devotionals are an encouragement. I'd say it's probably like a 5-minute read, if that, most days. And there's some Bible verse connected. There's just some thoughts to consider, some questions. Just kind of wrap it all up with a short little prayer, and then send you on your way on the day. Just 3 times a week. It's something I'd love to do every day. Maybe there'll be a book someday of some of these devotions. I don't know. I've had lots of ideas. Used to do some videos. You can find those on my YouTube channel for devotions. It's just got to be where it was hard to kind of keep putting it all out there. And I had to scale it back a little bit, but I did like doing the videos. Anyway, that's a complete aside and a rabbit trail, but just plug in that email list, DerekCharlesJohnson.com, As Bold as Lions email list. You can sign up for it. Okay, so as we're going into our topic today, the limitless supply of Almighty God, this big title, kind of just bold, putting it out there. I have to give a little bit of context that this week, or this episode, the blog that we did in March and the one that we did in February, they're all from these passages in John, the Gospel of John. And so people are maybe thinking, like, does he really like John? Are we hitting kind of a series here? What's the deal with all these, if you're keeping track of any of that? And I guess for my own self, I started out 2025 and felt like just reading through the Gospel of John, just kind of taking little snippets every day or every few days and trying to kind of work my way through it. I don't know if I'll get through the whole book this year. We'll see. But kind of line by line, verse by verse, just take wherever those little chapter breaks are, or even just the passage itself. And then, unbeknownst to me, our church, our pastor, started a series on the book of John as well this year. So I've kind of got this double barrel, staring me in the face accounts from John, and I've had kind of these earlier chapters where I've just felt like this is a great message. I want to build something around this, write a blog, do a podcast on it, whatever. So we had the Behold the Lamb of God, then we had the Thirsty for Living Water, that episode, and now this one, the Limitless Supply of Almighty God, which is from John 6, 1 through 15. It's Jesus feeding the 5,000. So that's why we kind of keep coming back to John, and I don't know where we'll go in subsequent months, but good chance we'll keep in there for some of these. And it's just hitting me this year, through my personal study, through what I hear on Sunday mornings. There's a lot in this book. And there's a lot in the Bible. Like, we know that. We can just keep going and never stop with what we can glean from it. But as we go into this account of Jesus when he feeds the 5,000, if we've been a Christian, if we've gone to church for any length of time, maybe you grew up in the church, you've heard sermons on this, you've read the passage probably yourself many times. maybe some Bible studies, different things where it's come up. And so we almost get to the point where we've heard this so many times, we've heard it so much, it kind of can be easy to just gloss over it and move on to the next thing. Like, oh yeah, Jesus, takes the loaves, the fish, he multiplies it, they're all fed, everybody goes home happy, well fed, whatever. But there's so much more. And I think that's been the lesson for me in John this year, is like, there's a lot to just soak in if we take the time. And just going slower and slower and just kind of taking it verse by verse and reflecting upon it. So I want to try to do that today. And I want to first of all read this passage, John 6, 1 through 15. I'm in the ESV, the English Standard Version. That's usually the version I use, translation I use. You might be NIV, you might be NLT, you might be New King James, whatever. But if you just want to listen, that's fine. If you want to have your own copy pulled up and following along, that's fine as well. So John 6, picking up right at the top. After this, Jesus went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. And a large crowd was following him because they saw the signs that he was doing on the sick. Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. Lifting up his eyes then, and seeing that a large crowd was coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat?" He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of them to get a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There's a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are they for so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, about 5,000 in number. Jesus then took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. So also the fish, as much as they wanted. And when they had eaten their fill, he told his disciples, "Gather up the leftover fragments, that nothing may be lost." So they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten. When the people saw the sign that he had done, they said, "This is indeed the prophet who is to come into the world." Verse 15, perceiving then that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, Jesus withdrew again to the mountain by himself. As I read this account most recently, I felt the Lord just impressing upon me a few different truths. And those are things that ultimately deal with building the kingdom and what partly is our responsibility in that and really what is the Lord's. And I believe that we indeed see that we play a role in all this, but there can be some confusion and sort of a missing of the point if we're not looking upon Jesus clearly, if we're not clearly seeing him through the story. This miracle, puts all the credit back firmly, squarely on Jesus. He's the one that did the miracle. He's the one that provided. But there was this level of obedience that the disciples also had to display. They're not just casual observers to everything going on. They're fully involved. They're asked to take an active role here. And I hope that as we go through this today, we see that when we partner with the Lord, we find out that his supply is indeed limitless. It's an inexhaustible supply that he brings to the table. And yeah, we've read this story so many times, but let's be sure to read it with the Holy Spirit's leading, causing us to hear the truth in it and that we need to receive. So having said all that up, we're going to go on our first point, and that is this. God often presents a need that is beyond our comprehension. He says in verse 5, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat?" I'm going to be clear here. He's done some miracles already so far. He's certainly had some teachings. If you're reading through the book of John up to this chapter, up to this point. But this need that addresses that comes up in chapter 6 with the feeding of the 5,000, this to me, and I'm kind of trying to put myself in the shoes or the sandals of the disciples. This to me seems like a new level of like, this is too big. This is impossible. This cannot be done. He's turned water into wine. Yeah, he's done that. There's this man at the pool at Bethesda. He's healed him. He's healed an official's son. These various teachings. He had this encounter with the Samaritan woman at the well. We talked about that. But this need, wow, this seems even too big for Jesus. And we hear the doubt that comes through in Philip's response. He says, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of them to get a little. He's crunched the numbers here, and he's like, it doesn't add up. A denarius, just one denarius, was a day's wage for an unskilled laborer. So he's saying, look at this throng of people. To feed them all, even to just give them a taste of something, would need 7 months of wages. 7 months to give them all food. And to go further with this, that we always hear he fed 5,000, this number, but that's probably just the count of the men that were in this crowd. Beyond saying women and children and accounting for all that, some scholars say it's 15 to 20,000 that are all there, hungry, ready to eat. And I probably would agree with Philip. This looks pretty impossible. So I have to ask, why does Jesus even put this before them? Why does he make this ask of the disciples? And I believe there's a point at which an ask like this comes to each of us at some point in our lifetime, perhaps multiple times in our lives, where there's like this impossible ask that God is putting before us. And in the asking, Jesus already knows the answer. That's why I love verse 6, where it's like, he said this to test him, for he himself knew what he was going to do. He already had a plan. He's just kind of feeling out Philip, like, where's his faith at? What is he going to say? The question is a test, and it's really, will you trust me? Are you going to step out in faith with me in this? There's no way that a need like this can possibly be met apart from God. There's those times where we get this thing before us, and it's like there's no way without God intervening that this is going to happen. It's just impossible. And the disciples here, they're thinking from a humanistic point of view. They're just thinking, logically within what reasoning they have. The wages that we need to have in order to provide enough food, they're not there. But Jesus is not asking for us to find a human solution to these problems. He's asking us to look heavenward. And then as we gaze there for the answer, the glory, the honor, the praise, the credit, it all goes back to him. So God often presents a need that's beyond our comprehension. That's where this kind of all starts in this passage. Secondly, into that need, God is asking for and looking for our obedient trust. If you're a note taker, that phrase, obedient trust, that's something that's key here. John 6, 8 and 9, one of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There's a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what are they for so many?" Andrew steps forward, and he's there to offer some sort of a solution, half-hearted as it may seem. He's trying to wrap his mind around, like, well, we've got something here we could use. But from what he does offer, Jesus takes it and multiplies it. We know that. And here's, where this recent kind of read through of this passage, it hit me anew and afresh, like I hadn't read it before. And I've always understood just the kind of common, like, we bring Jesus what we have, we bring our little, small amount, and he blesses it, he multiplies it. We bring him the loaves and the fish, that's all we have, and he takes it and makes it into more. And that's not wrong. I'm not saying that's, too simplistic or anything. That's totally a takeaway from this. But it was something, just the last part of Andrew's reply, that just hit me. He says, "But what are they for so many?" He's like, I've found something. We've got this boy here. We've got some fish. We've got, some bread. But what good is it? And even in taking that step forward, Andrew's still doubting. He's still kind of like, I'm not seeing the point here, Jesus. I'm not seeing why you would even ask this of us. And in his flesh, he's reducing his Savior to a mere man, a mere mortal, just like the rest of them. Even with the little that I have here, what can possibly be done, Lord? What are you going to do with this? It's nothing. It's not enough. It's not going to feed this crowd. It's not going to meet this need. It's just, why are you asking? And as I got to thinking about this, and I thought about Andrew, his statement here, I then kind of went down this quick rabbit trail of some of the affirmative statements in the Bible, which offer just a simple surrender to the Lord's plan. Thinking like when Samuel is responding to the voice of the Lord in 1 Samuel 3:10, he simply says, "Speak, for your servant hears." Esther willingly going before the king, knowing that, and if I perish, I perish. Esther 4:16. She's going before the king on behalf of her people as a, to see if she can save her people. Isaiah being caught up in heaven, the vision of around the throne, Isaiah 6, and then God has this call, who will go? And Isaiah said, "Then I said, here I am, send me." Isaiah 6:8. So these affirmative responses, they're also in the Bible. They're these people that said, "Hey, I don't really know what you're going to do, God. I don't know what you want, what your plan is, but I'm here. I'm a living sacrifice. I'm a living, breathing vessel for you to use, an instrument for you to use, a conduit for your grace to flow through, whatever." And I think what God is looking for is this obedient trust. This feeding of the 5,000 exemplifies this. It's not so much that Andrew just completely got it wrong or missed it. Honestly, he was going to what he had access to, and he was bringing it before the Lord. He's like, here's what I have. It's not much. It's not gonna feed all these people, but I have this. And he's maybe thinking this isn't really going to be enough in human terms, but maybe Jesus can work with it. Maybe there's something you can do with this. And that's where I get excited, because as we drill down into that further, there's like another sermon within this thing. There's like another thing that we can go further with, but I don't have the time. But it's that obedience. It's that trust. I can't completely say what Andrew was feeling there. There was a response to the call, though, but I think there was still a part of him that's like, this won't be enough, God. What can you do with it? I don't know. We must see that God is after a heart that will trust him, even when his ask of us looks too big and too impossible. We have to trust him. So as we close up with our last point, God's showing us that he'll put a need before us that's too big. And in that ask, he's looking for our trust. And finally, with him, we see that there's an unending, limitless supply. John 6:11, Jesus then took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated, so also the fish as much as they wanted. So beyond healings and the other miracles so far in John, Jesus now shows he has authority over supply, finite resources, specifically food. He has authority over food supplies. And this had to be mind-blowing for the disciples and the rest of the audience. Imagine going around picking up all these leftovers and having, 12 basketfuls of leftover loaves of bread. And it reminds me of the miracle that Elijah and the widow with the oil. This is 2 Kings 4, 1-7. Kind of in a similar way, God, he grants enough supply to meet the need. They're filling these jars with oil, and this widow can sell these and pay off her debts and then have enough to live off of. And the thought that God cares about these things and he's literally invested in them, it shouldn't have been lost on the disciples. It shouldn't be lost on us as well. He provides over and above what even could be consumed on that day. The crowd ate as much as they wanted. And as we close this passage, they are now ready to push Jesus forward. They're ready to make him king, ruler. Look what he can do. He can heal the sick. He can feed us. He's gonna. They're seeing this kind of finite, kingly earthly rule, and they're ready to propel Jesus into this. Let's overtake our oppressors. Let's use this for our own kind of gain. And Jesus is perceiving all this, and he withdraws. It says in verse 15. That's not why he came to the earth. He's not going to have any of it. And Matthew Henry's commentary on this passage, it speaks of the fact that Jesus is showing self-denial here. He's showing humility. And there's just a submission, once again, to the will of the Father in this. He's not going to take anything by force. He's not here for some sort of earthly takeover and to kind of allow them to manipulate him into the box that they want him to be in for them. So he leaves, he departs the crowd. And as I peel back the layers of the onion with this passage, because this, like I said, has kind of taken on new meanings. The more I go back to it and reread it, there's like more there. And as I go back, I think Jesus is asking me, he's asking us, are we quiet enough to hear his voice? Are we quiet enough to still ourselves so that we can listen to what he's saying to us? As he brings the disciples into this discussion that they're going to feed the 5,000, he's not looking at their ability or their skill. He's not saying, hey, who can go catch some fish, who can go whip up some bread. He's not, we got a big order we got to put in here, guys. He's not looking at any of that. He's just looking for their availability. And again, this obedient trust. You've asked me to do this, God. As I've been contemplating this, I've been asking myself, what does my obedient trust look like? Is there evidence of it from day to day? Because if I'm like Philip and Andrew, I'm taking my doubt and I'm allowing that to just cast a shadow on everything that Christ could do in my life and through me. I'm just kind of like, well, we don't have enough, Lord, so you're not going to be able to do this. And, that's devastating to our faith. Think of the statements that we sometimes say. Well, I'd step out in faith and go start that ministry, Lord, but I'm just too scared to do it. I don't think I can do it. Or, Lord, that healing that I need or that this person needs, it seems too big, seems beyond the scope of anything you could do. Too big to ask for. Here's one. God, there's not enough money. The need's too big financially, so I don't even know why I'm dreaming about starting this or doing that, because I'm looking at my bank account and that does not add up, God. Or, Lord, I'm wanting you to reconcile a relationship with this person, but I really don't see how it ever can be fixed. This seems too far gone. The relationship is too broken, too shattered for it ever to be reconciled. And we just kind of put these barriers up, these walls up. Like, God, you're not going to be able to do that. Who says that? It's our own faith that kind of keeps us from going any further, because we say, yeah, you've done this before, you've done that, but God, I don't really believe you can do this thing. That's just that's a step too far beyond what I'm used to you doing. And when we look at the need and we just kind of humanly consider it like the disciples did, we're only going to get those human answers, and we're going to be left short-sighted, seeing anything fulfilled, anything come to pass. We're going to miss the boat on any of those things that we're hoping for, asking for, because we're going to come up short. The numbers don't add up. The feeding of the masses, the filling of the jars with the oil, it often comes down to that point of the seemingly unreasonable ask of the Lord. It does seem a little unreasonable when he says, where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat? When he kind of throws that out there, like, they're hungry, they want to eat. Where are we gonna find bread? That question, if you're not dealing with it right now in some aspect of your life, it will come up. And it's when that moment hits, is that, are you going to go to the Lord as your trust, as your rock, as your security? Or are you going to try to hash it out and figure it out in your own strength and your own power? Because that is a futile endeavor, and it never works. We have to trust that he already knows the answer. He's putting something before us, and he already says, I'm already miles ahead of you on this. Will you trust me in the journey as we go through it? And in that, we partner with the Lord. This is the beautiful thing, is that he partners with us, and then he brings these purposes and these plans together that he has in mind, and they're good plans. And as I think about this, as I'm preaching to myself here, I'm just saying, what could be better than that? Knowing that if I trust him, if I lay down my defenses, if I surrender to him, if I exhibit obedient trust, and then I get him to come in and walk with me through this, and I get to see what he's going to do through a situation that looks too big, it deepens my faith all over again. We do serve a God who has limitless supply. And I hope that you understand that as you read this account, as you see different things in the Bible, as you've gone through your own life. Just because you've seen God do things before and the next thing seems too big, it doesn't mean he won't do it. You have to look back at that history and say, I can trust him. He was trustworthy then, he's trustworthy now. So my encouragement is to say, let's just partner with him today, and let's see him do miraculous things again in our midst, in our time. Guys, I love walking the journey with you. I hope you've enjoyed some recent just dives into things from John. It's kind of where I'm just living a lot lately, and so there's a lot that hits me, and I just feel like, man, as I'm reading this is something I need to share, even if it's just one person out there. Even if it's just for myself, because I'm like, this is something that I've been wrestling with God, and I don't want to stay stagnant in my faith. I don't want to stay in this place where I'm not growing. I'm not allowing you to lead me out into deeper and deeper waters. I think that's what he's calling each one of us to do. And when we stop trusting him and going further, that's really when we stop growing. And so allow yourself to be in that place where you see him do great and remarkable things because you're just available to him and trusting him. We're going to close with our theme verse, Ephesians 5:15 through 17. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. As I'm checking my calendar here, guys, we've got a week off. Then we'll hit something with Easter. Then we'll pivot again and keep going into some new stuff. So I hope you guys have a blessed week and day, and we'll talk to you again soon. God bless.
Hey guys, this is Derek Charles Johnson. You have been listening to the As Bold as Lions podcast. I am a blogger, a songwriter, an artist. And if you've been encouraged by this podcast, please go ahead and subscribe and share, and head over to DerekCharlesJohnson.com for more encouraging content. God bless.